This is a special presentation of DawgNation, unmatched coverage of UGA in the postseason. Brought to you by R.S. Andrews, Kroger, Royal Caribbean, and Georgia Farm Bureau.
Hello, DawgNation. I'm Brandon Adams. Welcome into postseason coverage. We are live here just outside Hard Rock Stadium in Miami, where finally all the talking is almost over. We're actually about to play a football game this afternoon between Georgia and Florida State. A lot of Seminoles fans mulling about right now. A lot of Georgia fans here there as well. Getting ready to see. Florida State fan just told you as he walked by they were robbed. So that gives you an idea of how Seminoles fans are starting feeling right now. Hey, hello, guys. Gives you an idea how they're feeling right now. Obviously pretty salty about not being in the college football playoff. And frankly, I think the Georgia fans feel very much the same way. But by now, there has been plenty of chatter about that. Everybody knows the backstory on all of that. And instead, the attention turns especially on the Georgia side of, well, exactly what kind of Georgia team are we going to see here today? You know, what exactly is this Georgia team going to look like? And that's what we're going to give you a couple of minutes worth of information on, at least the best that we can tell here in these final moments prior to kickoff. And, of course, DawgNation live on video throughout the day here today. Kaylee Manziel will have our game day pregame show coming up for you later on this afternoon. I'll see you immediately after the game for the DawgNation postgame show there as well, where we hopefully wrap up for Georgia a 13th win, a conclusion to another terrific season, and perhaps the start of a brand new winning streak, keeping in mind that going back 2 years ago, it was this same stadium behind me, Hard Rock Stadium in Miami, where Georgia started what would turn into a 29-game winning streak. Obviously, Georgia fans would love nothing more than to see that happen again for this team by going out there and getting the win against Florida State. Let me also take a couple of minutes to thank some of the sponsors who've been with us for the entirety of this postseason run, and obviously for so many years here around DawgNation, including our friends at Royal Caribbean. And as I stand here in Miami, I am reminded that really just a few paces away from where I am right now, it's the Port of Miami, the brand new home of Icon of the Seas, the largest cruise ship ever constructed. And I'm only a couple of weeks away from being back in Miami to be on board Icon of the Seas, among the first who set sail on the largest cruise ship ever constructed. And if you want to have the same experience and be a part of a lot of the fun, exciting things that Royal Caribbean has in store here in 2024, Jessica Slater, great travel agent. She's going to take care of you on all of that. You can email her, jslater@dreamvacations.com. That's jslater@dreamvacations.com. And she can help you plan a great Royal Caribbean cruise vacation. Won't cost you any extra money. Royal Caribbean believes that a great cruise vacation, a great Royal Caribbean cruise vacation, made even better by a great travel agent. That's what Jess gives for us, specially selected by Royal Caribbean. So make sure you check her out as you get ready to plan a great Royal Caribbean cruise here in 2024. Now, let's give you the latest that we have on the status of a couple of Georgia's most important players. Many of you are aware when Georgia arrived here to Miami on the 26th, not seen with Georgia that day, Brock Bowers, Amarius Mims, two guys that are very likely first-round picks. We were anticipating that both Bowers and Mims would be with Georgia before the week was done, and now that has been confirmed. Amarius Mims put it out a couple of days ago on Instagram that he had arrived in Miami. We saw him yesterday in the team work, sort of like the final practice, air quotes around practice, the sort of final walkthrough before game day. We were on hand for that yesterday, got a chance to see Amarius Mims there for that, and perhaps more importantly, got a chance to see Brock Bowers, because I think it's quite likely in this game that Amarius Mims, who's here, enjoying a little bit of fellowship perhaps with his teammates, I guess my prediction at this point in time, that's all this really is a prediction. My prediction is that Mims likely won't play for Georgia today. I would say there is at least some chance that Brock Bowers plays at least a little. My eyewitness account of what I saw from Brock yesterday it wasn't like full-fledged yoga from Georgia practice like it was a year ago, but it was something pretty close to that. They were doing some stretch work. They were doing some light jogging. Bowers seemed to be in good spirits. He seemed to be moving around pretty well, but, if you see photos and videos coming out from that, what you're going to notice is that he wasn't, it just wasn't much going. Though he wasn't doing very much, but what he was doing, he seemed to be doing pain-free. So I think the expectation here, at least based on, you talk to people, you see with your own eyes, I think the expectation here is that Bowers will have a uniform on. Bowers probably plays maybe early in this game, and then you see him give way to others as the game continues. And to be completely frank, that could be a little bit of a theme for Georgia here today there as well. Georgia's and its players and its coaches have been very intent on saying the right things in preparation for this game. Talking about why would you not play, and players seemingly to a man saying, I want to be out there for my teammates, want to finish the right way. Georgia's hype video to celebrate this game was built around the idea of finishing the right way. So that's clearly the theme for Georgia, and officially speaking, Georgia has no opt-outs. Obviously, Florida State has had a good number. But as Kirby Smart has said, every time the subject of opt-outs comes up, Georgia is also dealing with its share of injuries. So this may be an absence by a different description. Whereas like Florida State's guys, many of which top players certainly, high levels of their production certainly have announced they are not here, not planning to play. A lot of the Georgia guys are here. Perhaps you may see them play early and then give way to others as the game goes on. In fact, if you're going to be in the stadium later on today here in Miami, if you're watching on TV, this could be one of the things that you would look at closely of, as the game wears on. Are we seeing more younger players, more of what we think of as like backup players, stepping into the game, playing a larger role, and guys perhaps that we saw to begin the game, are they giving way as the rest of the game takes shape? I don't expect that to necessarily be the case for Carson Beck. If Georgia, who's about a 3-touchdown favorite today, if it can build a big enough lead, we could see some of Gunnar Stockton today. A lot of Georgia fans are hoping for that opportunity. But I believe that for the most part, Georgia will treat this game as a traditional football game, and they'll treat their quarterback situation the way they typically do. Georgia doesn't make these football games glorified scrimmages, whether it's an regular season game against a so-called lesser opponent, a non-Power 5 type opponent, and in this sort of definitely glorified scrimmage of a bowl game. I think once again Georgia for the most part is going to treat this like a regular game. They'll give Carson Beck the starters reps throughout the entirety of the game, and then if the score warrants it later, that may be an opportunity to see Gunnar Stockton, and obviously that's something that Georgia fans would certainly love. While I have a moment, I'll also give a shout-out as well to another one of our great sponsors. We're not in the state of Georgia right now, but I'm proud to call the state of Georgia home, and I can't wait to be back in the friendly confines of my home state there tomorrow. And when it comes to being proud of being from Georgia and loving living in Georgia, that's what our friends at Georgia Farm Bureau are all about there as well. We say they're always the home team. What we mean by that is their agents, friendly folks, claims adjusters, people who live in Georgia just like you do, and they understand your needs. The vehicle that gets you to and from work every single day, that's the source of your livelihood. Important to have great insurance on that, or your home insurance there as well. Once again, very important when you talk about perhaps your greatest financial investment. Certainly one of the great sources of your memories and the important family connection you have. You want great home insurance protection there as well. That's what Georgia Farm Bureau lives to provide. They're folks right here in the state of Georgia, going to work, going to wherever, taking their kids to school, just like you are right there in the state of Georgia. So find out why Georgia Farm Bureau is always the home team. Find them online, GFBinsurance.com. The GFB stands for Georgia Farm Bureau. GFBinsurance.com for more on that. All right, a couple of final thoughts here before we get ready to say goodbye. Obviously, we're watching close. Other SEC Bowl action today. The Peach Bowl is ongoing back in Atlanta with Ole Miss and Penn State. Before the show began, I was still seeing a scoreless game, 0-0 in that affair. We'll obviously be watching that closely. Auburn kicks off a little later on this afternoon against Maryland. That's another SEC team in bowl action today. It was interesting last night. Missouri got a win against Ohio State. We had said that Missouri perhaps had a little bit extra motivation there, maybe more motivation in that game than Ohio State did, and sometimes that motivational edge is enough to get you to the pay window during bowl season. It was also, for the balance of the game, a pretty low-scoring game. Missouri tacked on a couple of scores there late to build some margin, but that game was still 3-0 into the third quarter. So I think it'll be interesting to watch as far as the pace of today's game between Georgia and Florida State. Are we seeing, lower scoring games to kind of go along with what we saw from Missouri and Ohio State, or is this like what we've seen sometimes in bowl seasons of past when you've got just both teams scoring a whole bunch of points? Obviously, the team total for Florida State today is only just slightly north of 10, so they're not expected to score a whole lot here today. But you watched, what has been a little bit of a low-scoring, period for some of these bowl games, perhaps foreshadowing one way or another what we might see between Georgia and Florida State a little bit later on. So that's the scene here. The anticipation starting to build, fans from both sides kind of showing up. Florida State fans in a bad mood. It seems like by now Georgia fans have sort of made peace with their predicament here. Not the bowl game that either team wanted to be in, but the expectation for fun inside Hard Rock Stadium today certainly exists. And so we've got video coverage coming up for you, 1:30 p.m. We'll have our DawgNation pregame show with Kaylee Mansell. Then, as I said before, I'll see you after the game for the DawgNation postgame show there as well. And, of course, DawgNation.com. Any type of news that breaks during the game, before the game, DawgNation's got you covered on all of that, including some very, very interesting stuff coming from the Georgia locker room tonight once the game is concluded. So thanks for being here, a part of our postgame, postseason coverage all year long and all month long here. Our friends at Kroger, Royal Caribbean, R.S. Andrews, and obviously Georgia Farm Bureau making that possible for us. We'll see you back here very soon from Hard Rock Stadium in Miami. Have a great afternoon, everybody.